Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to have a little bit of a chat about whether you should be prioritizing Scarlet and Violet over other sets. It's that series I like to do very much indeed, where we look at a bunch of recent sets, and we ask ourselves a question: which set is worth your money? Which one should you be investing in? And today, we're going to look at the last three main sets. Or I suppose it would be more correct to say the last two main sets and the next main set coming up. Because, I mean, look, we're not going to mention Crown Zenith in this video. We did actually talk about this a little while ago, although with imperfect information. But basically, Crown Zenith is a very different kind of set. It is a special set, you can't buy booster boxes of it, and certainly in terms of competitive cards, etc., there really isn't very much in there. There's a few cards, don't get me wrong, there's some decent cards in there, but it's very much a different kind of set. And today, what I want to be focusing on, ladies and gentlemen, is I want to be focusing on main sets. So let's start off, let's go oldest to newest. Let's start off with Lost Origin. And the thing about Lost Origin is, there's a lot to love about Lost Origin. Lost Origin has a lot of extremely cool cards playability-wise, but it's also got some cards that are very much worth it in terms of value. And I don't want to be that person that talks about Pokemon cards only in terms of value, and I'm not. I think I've proven that very much on this channel. But it's still an absolutely fair point to make that when people are buying packs of Pokemon cards and booster boxes of Pokemon cards, they want the opportunity. They want to know that there is a chance, at least, that they could go and pull themselves some really impressive cards, some cards that are going to be able to be traded away for a bunch of cool stuff. And I don't think that's a particularly controversial statement. So Lost Origin then, if we focus on the most expensive cards, there are basically two. Only really two in the set. But there are two cards in Lost Origin that are absolutely worth it. You've got the alternate art of Giratina, which is somewhere around a $270 card. And that's not a perfect thing. It goes up and down. It's out of stock in TCG Player at the moment. But right now, $270 is a decent approximation of value. That's a very expensive card. We've then got the Aerodactyl, which is somewhere in the region of about a $130 card. That one really does fluctuate up and down a bit more wildly, but $130 is about a fair thing to say. And I still think, especially if you look at the price of the Japanese card, I still think that is a weird... Well, it's a weird thing, right? It's weird. It's not right. It is one of those cards, we've had a couple of these lately, where the value in English does not track with the value in Japan. And all I can say is, yeah, it's apparently one of those. Outside of those two, the drop is pretty steep. But those two are cards very much worth pulling. But in terms of playability, there is quite a lot that we see in Lost Origin here, which makes it a very, very cool set. I mean, one of the things I really love about Lost Origin is there are a bunch of rares that are very, very much worth pulling. Things like your Sableye, things like your Comfy, which is, of course, an engine in and of itself. You've got things that, obviously, these aren't rares at this stage, but you've got things like Kyurem V Max, which has had a big impact on the metagame. Obviously, Giratina's good. We just saw Goodra take down a very big tournament. All of the Lost Zone stuff is in here. You know, even in trainers, you got stuff like Mirage Gate, things like Lost Vacuum. These are cards that are seeing a huge amount of play. People are saying the Hisuian Zoroark V-Star is going to see some play post-rotation, and that remains to be seen. But I think Lost Origin is a set that really kind of has everything. You've got those high-level collectible cards at the top, which is awesome. You've got a whole bunch of playable cards, and then, of course, you've got the trainer gallery. And we all know at this stage that the pull rates in the trainer gallery are such that you're not getting a lot of value out of the trainer gallery. Now, to be fair, in this set, you do have the Pikachu V Max, it's about a $50 card, and the Pikachu V, which is about a $30 card. And then, as previously mentioned, it drops hard after that. But you still got a couple cards in the trainer gallery which are very much worth it. But you've also got that trainer gallery, which, helps all the third year Sword and Shield sets. But basically what I'm getting at is here, Lost Origin is a very, very good set. So how does that stack up against Silver Tempest? Well, at the higher end, because Lugia V is seeming to settle at a sub $200 card. The recent souls on TCG Player are around the 200 mark. The market price is about 200. It is about a $200 card, which you will notice is a little bit below what we were talking about in terms of Giratina. So certainly at the high end, this is a cheaper card. And similarly, whereas we said that Aerodactyl was number 2 in Lost Origin, was about a $110 card, number 2 for Silver Tempest, you're talking Unknown or Serena, which are like $40 cards. And there's a decent middle ground, because you've also got the Rainbow Rare Lugia and the Alternate Art Regidrago, which are again around about $40 cards. So there are actually a few $40 cards coming out in quick succession here. But in terms of the top level value, you've only really got the one. And after that, we do see that drop off pretty quickly. And like I say, it's a few $40 cards out there, but there's only one which is a really impressive card in that regard. And if we stick here for a little bit and talk about the trainer gallery, the trainer gallery here is nowhere near as good. Yes, you've got Rayquaza VMAX, which is about, stop me if you've heard this before, a $40 card. Apparently Silver Tempest just loves those $40 cards. But then after that, there is a very, very, very steep drop-off. I mean, number 2 is Friends in Gala, which is about a $15 card. Not the Japanese version. The Japanese version, very much worth picking up. But the English version is. And like I say, the drop-off is very, very harsh. And you've still got the trainer gallery, which is cool. But I do think it's very fair to say the trainer gallery in Lost Origin beats the trainer gallery in Silver Tempest. And the big high-level cards in Lost Origin beat the high-level cards in Silver Tempest. And to be fair, Silver Tempest does have a bunch of good cards. But they seem to be a little bit narrower. You don't have a draw engine coming out like you do in Lost Origin, which has got the whole kind of Lost Zone thing. And don't get me wrong, you've got Lugia and all the associated stuff like Archeops. You've got Regidrago, which again, post-rotation could be a decent shout. We've got some decent trainers like Forest Seal Stone. Very good card. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we've got Serena. V-Guard Energy is kind of nice. But I don't think it's unfair to say that Lost Origin had a better impact on the metagame than Silver Tempest. Oh, Regieleki, the VMAX. That is going to be a good one post-rotation. That one is looking very cool. And then, you got that fringe stuff. Things like Vulpix is seeing a bit of play here and there, but I do think in basically every way, Lost Origin beats Silver Tempest. It's got better cards at the high end, it's got a better trainer gallery, and I think playability-wise, it's a bit better. So I think if you're picking between them, I think we're going Lost Origin. But let's bring in Scarlet and Violet, and we are at the stage now, we've seen the full set over in Japan, so what that means is we are going to be seeing, we kind of know what we're looking at, I suppose, is what I'm trying to go for here. We know where we're going. We know the kind of cards we're going to be seeing, and that means that we can give a much better look at the set. When we looked before and compared to, say, Crown Zenith, we didn't really have a full look at the set. And now we very much do. And the thing is, and we can't guarantee value because we've only seen it in Japan, blah, 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 but we've got some good cards at the high end. We've been talking about the Miriam Special Art Rare lately, which is basically the number one card in Japan over the past few years. That's going to be an absolute monster over here. We've got the Full Art of Miriam, which seems like it's going to be a very good card. We've got the Special Art Rare of Penny by Okacheke, which seems like it's going to be a high-end card. We've got things like Miraidon, the Special Art Rare, which is a phenomenal card in terms of artwork, but it's also really getting up there in terms of value. And although we do have to wait and see in terms of exactly how the value shakes out when the set makes its way over here, I don't think it's unfair to presume that in terms of pure value, Scarlet and Violet could be the best one. Certainly Miriam is overtaking like any card we've seen lately over in Japan, and when you combine that with stuff like Penny and Miraidon, we could have some serious heavy hitters in the set. And these special art rare supporters do seem to be going a little bit silly. But then in terms of playability, it's a base set. And I think this is something we really need to remember when we're talking about, well, all sets going forward. Base sets just generally tend to be pretty good. Obviously, we know at this stage it's really, really looking like Miraidon is going to be an absolute top deck. It looks absolutely redonkulous. Gardevoir is looking like it might be a real top deck in the format. We need a bit more data coming out of Japan before we can say for certain, but they seem to be very, very good decks moving forward. But then we've got a whole bunch of other staples. Miriam, which of course is really good for getting your Pokemon back while drawing cards. Nest Ball is going to be a very big thing. Beach Court to help with your retreating. That's going to be a pretty gosh darn big deal. That Electro Generator card that gets energy for lightning Pokemon. That seems pretty gosh darn good. And my point here is that it is a base set. And what that means in reality is we are going to be getting a whole bunch of stuff in there that we need for years moving forward. Just like we did with the Sword and Shield base set. Just like we did with the Sun and Moon base set. You see where I'm going with this. It's just the way it works. And when you combine that with the fact that it already looks like we got some top decks coming out of the set, and you combine it with the fact that value-wise this looks very high, I mean, the one thing that sets like Lost Origin and Silver Tempest really had going for them was the fact that we had this trainer gallery that was looking redonk. But now that we know that we've got all of these art rares and special art rares, which weren't usually in main sets, they were brought in from mini sets, but now they are being brought in from main sets. That's no longer an advantage that we see from those older sets. And that's kind of my point here. My point here very simply is, although it's early and we need to, really wait until it's released and all of that, I'm looking at Silver Tempest, and we already know, as far as I'm concerned, and this is, we can look at value very much as a data thing, and certainly tournament results, but there's an element of subjectivity here, but I do think that Lost Origin just beats Silver Tempest in, every way. But then, by the same token, I think we can also look at Scarlet and Violet and be like, I think this is going to beat the other two in basically every way. I think it's going to have better high-end cards. It's going to bring top decks into the format. It's going to have those art rares and special art rares. And being a base set, it's going to have a bunch of staples that we're going to need moving forward for years. And I've not even mentioned all the Pokemon staples out there. Things like Revavroom as a draw engine and Horlucha, which drops damage counters. And it's shaping up to be an absolutely phenomenal set. And I know we don't always have a clear answer, right? I like doing a series of videos where we compare free sets to see which one is worth your money, because best will in the world, we don't all have infinite money. And we don't always have a clear answer when we look at these kind of sets. But I think we do here. And I think the clear answer basically is, this. Scarlet and Violet. I think the clear answer here is, it is all about Scarlet and Violet. And that's a set which I'm going to go for. So yay, we made a decision. I'm proud of us, but now I want to hear from you guys. Which set would you go for out of these three? Are there any things you think I should have taken into account but haven't? Are there any things I have mentioned that you think are less important? Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, you can get some bonus pods to answer all of your questions, join a Discord and chat with us about Pokemon or anything else, and get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Star of Dav, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and seems to be a very lovely person indeed. So thank you very much for all the support, and for being a very lovely person. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.